Hey there everybody, welcome to Auto Bears, and you join me on the UK launch of this, which is the electric GV70 from Genesis. I think it's safe to say that Genesis has been a pretty busy brand over the last 17 months, especially since they reintroduced themselves back into Europe and the UK. Last year they introduced 5 new models, and granted they were all ICE cars because they either came with either a petrol or diesel engine. So many of us were a little bit hesitant and wondering well, where are the hybrids and electric cars? But Genesis simply told us to wait 1 year. So roll on 2022 and they've introduced 3 new models into the UK and Europe, all of them electric. It started with the GV60, and if you click up in the top right hand corner you can watch my review of that exciting electric car. They've also brought out the electric G80, so they've got themselves a nice lovely looking electric saloon, and now this is the 3rd car of the year, the electric GV70, and I'm here on its UK launch to see, well, what this new GV70 electric is all about. Now, when it comes to the electric GV70 styling, of course, there are going to be a few alterations compared to the ICE versions of the car. So we've got redesigned front and rear bumpers, and we've got the filled-in grille, which I actually think looks really stylish. It's called an inverted G-matrix style, and in fact, you would actually say that this was a pure EV through and through, and that there were actually no ICE versions available. Even the alloys are actually for this electric version of the GV70, and you can get them as 19 inches or, as on this car, 20 inches, and I'll let you know how they affect the ride later on. But also in this grille it does hide one of its little party pieces, which is the charging port, and you can find that right here. And it's actually really handy, and I do like where it's positioned and the fact that it just doesn't stand out like it does on other cars, so I do like that feature. And of course, just like Hyundai Group cars, you can go from 10 to 80% with charging in just 18 minutes. So that is really handy if you're doing a long trip. But let me know what you think of the electric GV70 styling in the comments section below. But now it's time, I think, we have a little look at what they've done with the interior. Sat in the front of the GV70 Electric, it feels pretty much identical to the ICE version of the car, which is no bad thing. I got a wonderful driving position, there's plenty of adjustment, the perceived quality here is absolutely excellent, and I love the choice of materials on display. And because I haven't got the car for too long, what I'm going to say is I'll go through the main differences I've noticed compared to the ICE version, and if you want to see the kind of full review of the interior, please click on the link for the full review of the diesel version of the GV70 I had recently. So really the main differences in here compared to the ICE version, well, they're few and far between, but they are noticeable. So firstly, because this is an electric vehicle, there is a sense of kind of eco materials in here. So if you go for the non-Nappa leather seats, you do get wool inserts on them, and you've also on the A pillar, B pillar and C pillar get this kind of suede material, but it has got one of those where they kind of use bits of old bottles and stuff and kind of reuse them and recycle them, so you can feel good about the environment. Now on the center console here and on the doors, we've got this bit of white trim here, and that does actually look really nice, and I can tell as well it lights up at night, so that will give a really nice kind of ambient feel to the interior when driving in the evening. We've also got on the digital display, of course we've got no rev counter, there's no engine under the bonnet, so we have now got a power gauge, and when it comes to where the power is being distributed, we have got a little battery in the centre rather than an engine, so that's noticeable as well. And then at the bottom of the steering wheel we've got a little boost button, but we'll come on to that in a little bit. But other than that, no, it feels very much like the ICE version of the GV70. Now the one thing I have noticed, which is actually kind of one cheap bit of plastic in here, is on the steering wheel, where we've got these kind of different buttons to what I experienced on the diesel version of the GV70 recently. And although they kind of feel like cheap plastic, they have got a nice feel to them and a nice tactility about it. But that's really the only kind of hard scratchy plastic I can feel on the interior. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty much identical, and that's no bad thing because I really do love this interior. But that's enough of looking at the front of the GV70 Electric. Let's see if it's any different in the back. Now, before I talk about the rear seats on the GV70 Electric, I do want to quickly point out that if you go for the comfort seat pack, the front passenger seat now has the same amount of adjustability as the driver's seat, which is really handy. And it also comes with that massage function. So if you're both on your way to a lovely evening meal, you can both enjoy a lovely bout of pelvic stretching before you get there, or perhaps before you get home. So this is truly a third date car and perfect for those young couples out there. So now, the rear seats, and the good news, there's no change from the ICE version of the GV70, which is a really good thing, because even I was suspecting that to incorporate those batteries under the floor, they'd actually have to lift the floor up in the GV70, and they don't. In fact, the only area where you lose out is actually in the boot, but that's no bad thing because the boot is massive anyway. But yeah, that's actually really handy, and you get all the mod cons I experienced with the GV70 when I reviewed it recently. So that's really handy, and it's perfect for adults up to 6 foot, and I think if you are a little bit taller than 6 foot, then you might find your head rubbing against the ceiling. But yeah, I really do like it back here in the GV70 Electric. Plenty of space, and I could easily enjoy a long journey in here. So now I think it's time we quickly have a look at that boot. Now, getting the boot open on the GV70 Electric gives you almost the same size boot you get with the internal combustion engine version of the car. As I mentioned, sat in the back seat, the only area where you actually lose out is underneath the boot floor. Now, don't quote me on this, but I will put the correct figure underneath, is you lose about 29 litres of space underneath the boot floor. But it is still packed full of features. We've got our tethering hooks, we've got a 12-volt socket, we've even got a 3-pin socket with this car as well, and of course, this being a Hyundai group car, we get vehicle to load as well. But also we can recline the rear seat so you can lie back and relax, and also you can still put the tonneau cover underneath the boot floor, which is really handy. And then if you put the seats down, you have an almost completely flat load area, so again you can get some large bulky items into the back of your GV70 Electric. So yeah, you don't actually lose out that much in terms of boot capacity, even now that you've got the electric version of the GV70. And also, we have a frunk. Now, it's not the biggest of frunks. I mean, it's about 25 litres or so, but it should be handy enough to put your charging cables there. So yeah, if you do want some extra storage space, you have got a little bit more up front. But yeah, I really do love the practicality of this GV70 Electric. It definitely looks like the perfect electric SUV for the modern family. And I think on that note, it's time we take this new EV for a drive. So once you start driving the electric GV70, first impressions are hugely positive. I mean, I loved the diesel version of the GV70 I had recently, and this is just an electric version of it. So I've got no diesel grumble up front. I've just got a little bit of electric whirring as I set off. I got no engine noise. It's very quiet, it's very refined, and it's still incredibly comfortable. I really loved the diesel version of the GV70, and I can only imagine now that this electric version is just going to be even better. So yeah, first impressions of the electric GV70 are hugely positive. I love the diesel version, and I feel I'm going to love this electric version even more. Now, usually when I do a review on the car, I break it down into little sections, like things such as trim levels, batteries, charging, etc. However, with the electric GV70, I can do a huge bulk in one go. So, there's one trim level available, and that is the Sport. The cost of the electric GV70 starts at just under £64,500. The battery under the floor is a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery, and that produces 483 brake horsepower, which means that this big electric SUV will get from 0 to 62 miles per hour in 4.2 seconds, with a top speed of 146 miles per hour. When it comes to range, because that's the important issue as well, we've got a range of WLTP of 283 miles. Charging, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the ability to do 800 volt charging, so we can go from 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes where you have the appropriate charges to do so. The great thing about the electric GV70 is it does come with a heat pump as standard, and also you can get battery conditioning. So if you use the sat-nav to take you to one of these superchargers, it will program and set the battery to make sure it's at the optimum temperature to get that charging capability. And breathe. So that's a big bulk there of what you can expect from the electric GV70. So of course, this being an electric vehicle, when it comes to regeneration, just like the Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6, you use the flappy paddles on the back of the steering wheel. And just like those other two Hyundai Group cars, you can go up to 3 levels of regen braking, or if you kind of go one further, you can go to an I-pedal or one pedal driving. And just like the Ioniq 5 and the EV6, it's got a really good amount of strength to the braking, so it does mean you can drive a large portion of your journey without having to use the brakes. So that is really handy, and it does take a bit of the strain out of driving. Now there are a couple of things you can do as well, which is actually hold the left pedal, and or paddle I should say, and that will actually act as a braking mechanism as well. So you don't actually have to just rely on the brake pedal or that regen braking. You can actually press and hold it and it will brake the car, which I actually think is a really good idea, especially for those who are looking to get themselves into an electric vehicle and perhaps have mobility issues and they need something, you know, where you got customization and adaptation to the car to make it easier for them to drive. So I do actually really like that idea. And then also we've got an intelligent regen system with the radar guided cruise control, and what that does is it basically changes the severity of the regen braking depending on what's going on in front of you and the heaviness of the traffic per se. So again, that kind of system is actually really clever, and again it takes a big chunk of the kind of stress and strain of driving, especially on a long journey, away from the driver. So I really do like that feature, and it is something actually I did come across on the Ioniq 5. So again, when it comes to the regeneration system of the electric GV70, Hyundai Group as well as Genesis really have done their homework with it. So what's the ride and refinement like in the electric GV70? Well, I was really impressed with the diesel version of the GV70 I drove, but I did find at lower speed the ride could be a little bit fidgety, especially on an uneven surface, and you had to kind of speed up in order to get it to settle down. And it's actually not like that in the electric GV70. I think because of the extra weight, because of those batteries, it does mean it deals with the bumps and imperfections really well. It feels settled even at low speed, and it doesn't feel fidgety at higher speeds. And as a result, that means you've got a really lovely electric SUV that you could do a long journey in and feel relaxed at the other end of your journey. It's a real just joy to behold. And then we got the refinement levels as well. I mean, going from an internal combustion car into an EV, usually there's some sort of drawback because you're losing out on the engine, so you don't get the engine noise, but you end up kind of getting other noises coming into the cabin, particularly road noise and tyre roar. And I've not really got that with the GV70. In fact, yes, there's a little bit of tyre roar, but that's it. I mean, it's still very quiet and very refined. I can easily have a conversation with somebody at motorway speeds and not feel I have to raise my voice. Now, one of the other things I really do like is the fact that this car has got the Lexicon sound system on there. So it is an upgrade to the standard system, but I experienced it first on the GV80 a few months ago, and I absolutely love that sound system. And it's the same here in the GV70 Electric, and I do recommend going for it. Now, of course, with this being an EV and with all that kind of road noise and such, there is a system in place where it pumps active sound into the cabin to kind of compensate and nullify any of that exterior noise. And well, it seems to do a really good job. I mean, like I said, I can hear a little bit of tyre roar, But that's it. If I put my foot down, I've got a tiny bit of wind noise coming from the wing mirror and the A-pillar, but that's about it. This is a really relaxing electric car to be in, and I am hugely impressed by it. I definitely know I could do a long journey in this car and come out the other end feeling lovely and relaxed and stress-free. And all I got as well is, you know, heated and ventilated seats. I've got the massage function, so I can happily feel even more relaxed when I get to my destination, and I've had a bit of a massage as well. Not to mention as well my front passenger, so that's a bonus for them also. So what's the handling like in the electric GV70? Well, just like the diesel version I reviewed recently, you get the impression quite quickly that this car is designed to be as comfortable and relaxing as possible and get you from A to B with no stresses or strains. It's definitely not a rival to something like a Porsche Macan, but because we've got that power and we've got the batteries set low in the car, it means we've got a low center of gravity, so you can chuck it into the corners and it will hold on. I mean, this car has got all-wheel drive, but don't be surprised if you push the electric GV70 if it wants to push wide a little bit, because again, it's not that kind of car. It is a relaxing, comfortable cruiser, or a proper bear bus in my mind. But it's still got the nice set of handling. There's a good amount of weight in the steering. You do feel a bit of a connection to the front wheels, but again, you do get the feeling it's built for comfort rather than sportiness, and that's no bad thing. Genesis definitely know the market that they're after with this car, and I think with this, the refinement and the ride all combined, you've got yourself a really lovely, comfortable cruiser of an SUV that happens to be very practical as well, not just in the boot, but in the rear seats. A perfect all-round EV SUV. That took a while, but we got there in the end. Now, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of differences for the interior compared to the ICE version of the GV70, one of them was a little button on the steering wheel that says boost. Now, if you've seen the GV60, that also comes with a boost button on the top of the range Sport Plus version. So what does that mean for the GV70? Well, it just means you get an extra boost of power for 10 seconds. So let's see what that's like. I'm in sport mode. Let's press him, and away we go. Okay, that caught me off guard, and I can hear my stuff moving then. Moving around in the boot. Oh, wow. Okay, that was impressive. And that will definitely help with that 0 to 60 time. So, okay, that caught me off guard and that's tickled me a bit. So if I just now, I'm in sport mode. Let's see, 30 miles an hour, no one behind me. See, that's impressive as well. That's pushed me into my seat. But there just happens to be now an extra boost, and it's all the way there. Oh God, okay, I very briefly went over the speed limit there, and that is so easy to do so. And another thing I love is when you do put it into sport mode, the side bolsters do hold you in place. I mean, my kidneys have shifted about an inch, and actually they've probably gone an inch backwards as well because of that boost button. Oh God, I'm never going to tire of that. That's absolutely brilliant. Oh wow, okay, yeah, that's impressive, that boost button, and that's tickled me properly. Oh dear. And again, oh God, it's all wow. In fact, there's no one behind me. Let's see if I can do a 0 to 60 with the boost. So, boost on, here we go. Okay, that's impressive. Okay, I like that. I like that a lot. Wow. Whew. So the boost button definitely does work. Oh dear. I've got to do that again. So what are my thoughts on the electric GV70 on this UK media drive? Well, I'm hugely impressed by it. It is a very practical car. It has all the pluses that you got from the ICE version of the GV70, but you've now just got the benefit of having the electric power. Now, yes, you would say if you went for a diesel version of the GV70, you get over 500 miles of range, and 283 is not as good as that. But compared to a number of cars in its class, this is still actually really good, and it has got those amazing charging capabilities. It's very comfortable, it's packed full of tech, and you've got a big boot and lots of rear passenger space. This is perfect for those that perhaps think that the GV60 is a little bit too quirky with its styling and is perhaps a little bit too small, and they don't want to go for the likes of the Ioniq 5 or EV6 for the same reasons, because they are all around the same size. So this is actually a perfect car for those who want to go fully electric, perhaps for young families, or perhaps for grandparents who, you know, want to start saving the planet for their grandchildren and get themselves into an EV when their kids, you know, want to go off and do something on their own and they can watch the grandkids. So they got themselves a nice, big, comfortable electric SUV that is also very comfortable and packed full of tech. So yeah, you can't go wrong. And when it comes to pricing as well, it's actually very competitive against its rivals. So again, you've got yourself a winner. Not to mention, you're going to have the customer service that you get from Genesis, where they come to you. You get 5 years warranty, 5 years of map updates. With the electric side of Genesis, you do get subscription services. You get the ability to get money off with Ionity and various, you know, extra benefits for going electric. And I'd recommend speaking to Genesis about that if you are thinking about the GV60, electric G80 or electric GV70, because you can't go wrong. So yeah, first impressions on this UK media launch, I really like it. If I had the money, I would definitely consider an electric GV70. I think it looks absolutely stunning. It drives really well, packed full of tech, and it's practical and comfortable. And it charges really quick too. I mean, what else is there that you need? Brilliant. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this first drive review of the new electric Genesis GV70. As always, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notifications icon to let you know when I, Dave the Auto Bear, bring out a new video. Also, if you've got any questions about the electric GV70 and my time with it, please put them down in the comments section below. Granted, I've only had the car a couple of hours or so, but it has made a great first impression. Of course, I'm on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, so don't forget to follow and subscribe on there for additional content. Oh, sorry, they've got a nice gentleman there, let me through. There we go. For more additional content there on social media. But guys, I hope you all have a great day, and I will catch you all in the next video. So take care everyone, and bye-bye. It's a Genesis.
Genesis?
Yeah.
New?
Yeah, they've been in the UK for about 18 months.
6 months?
18 months.
Oh, 18 months.
Yeah.
So less than 2 years then?